So welcome everybody, all of those who are new. We invite you to make yourself visible. And now we're going to start. So relationships yoga is a little theory and a lot of practice. So we're going to start from the practice. Let's start from that. The first thing we do is come into a more shared space. We call this the activation of the circle. Imagine us here together, gathered in this meeting today, around the idea that some of you know very well and practice already. Others are new to this idea of relationships yoga, basically making our everyday relationships a path. Yoga is evocative of the idea of a practice that has an end goal. That is, yoga means union. So connecting with our higher self, with our deepest parts. Now, Alikos, from now on, if anybody enters, can you please let them in so I don't get distracted every seconds? Thank you. So one thing we do is we connect everybody by using another sense that we have and that is very important, is the sense of hearing. So because all of us are here kind of physically in the same place, at least theoretically, because the truth is, each one of us is still subject to the echo of whatever you were doing until 10 minutes ago. I don't know where you're living, where you're listening from. I'm in Italy. It's 7:15 p.m. And before this meeting, I was doing all sorts of stuff. And this stuff is still in the background of my mind. So I don't really have a clear, clean, and deep presence and connection with you all. So in order to foster this deeper connection, my suggestion, what I invite you to do, is to listen together to the same sounds. And this, the purpose of this is to connect us all, put us on the same wavelength, literally speaking. And sound for this is a very powerful way to achieve this goal. So that even though we're all in different places on Earth, well, at least by listening together to the same music, it's only 2 minutes, we can kind of all join the same space, also mentally, emotionally, energetically. And that is what we call the circle activation. That activates. It's like, what is a circle in geometry? I don't know if you remember the days from school. What is a circle? What defines a circle in geometry? It's one point in the center, and the circle is made of all the points that are equally distant from that point in the center. Okay? So we are going to make the sound we will listen to now the center of our attention. So if we all just simply focus on this music together, just listening to it with no other special nothing, just listen to the music with your body, not just with your head, knowing that everyone else is doing the same thing at the same time. So this is circle activation, okay? We will explain more about this later, but now let's start with the practice. So please, to do this, just make yourself comfortable. It's better if you close your eyes while you listen, because when we close our eyes, our sense of hearing increases manyfold, or at least our awareness of it. And also make your body comfortable. Find a position so that you can not think of your body, that you can relax your body and you won't be falling in any direction because you found a stable position. So center yourself, choose how to position your body. And if you're not afraid to, close your eyes and become aware of your breathing for a moment. Just, you don't need to change it, but just notice the air coming in and out. There's just one last little detail I would like to invite you to do is to choose a position for your hands. It doesn't matter what position you choose, but make the way you hold your hands conscious. It can be any position. And during the listening, try not to move your hands if you can. Very good. Breathing in and out. And when you're going to hear the music, you don't need to do anything special. Just listen to it with curiosity and listen to it with your body, whatever that means for you. Okay, here we go. Oh, that was the wrong one. Here we go. You can hold the stillness for a second or two, longer if you wish, and walk yourself back mentally from where you are now to going back to having open eyes and full awareness to the context. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you wish, when you want, you can open your eyes, feeling great, relaxed, present, ready to start this experience together. So now we just did the circle activation. So hopefully everyone left a little bit behind all their thoughts and worries and concerns. And also, they also left aside a little bit everything that they have in their mind that about what's going to happen after. And we can really be present together for a little while. For about an hour, we will be sharing this space together. So what I invite you to do now, that was the first practice that we do in the harmonic circle. Every time we start with the activation. Then what we do what's called the circle tracing. Now, Jessica prepared some beautiful slides here that I want to share with you just to visualize what we're talking about here quickly, because as they say, one image speaks more than 1,000 words. So this is the the concept, as I was saying, you see on the left, we have this circle here, and the center defines the frequency, the matrix of this entity that together people create when they focus their mind and their hearts on the same idea. So the idea of relationships yoga is to improve the quality of our lives by improving the quality of our relationships. So if everyone had, this is the focus, this is the nature of this group and what it does by everyone sharing this same intention, the same focus, it naturally, what we call an egregore is created, also called a collective spirit. This egregore is created by the mind stuff, the energy, the aggregation of the energy of a group of people. This happens naturally, whatever people do. We see it playing out in life in all contexts, in any social human context. When people get together repeatedly, then they have whatever emotional bond or focus, they create something that exists on the subtle, in the invisible sphere, which is called an egregore. And it's called egregore in some traditions. Other traditions call it pendulum, or there's so many ways to call it, but it acts as an amplifier and an influencer of the participant's intention. Like, take a soccer team. Soccer team has its brand. The brand is the matrix that defines the aggregated energy. And then people do crazy things under the influence of belonging to a soccer team they believe in. For example, if they meet people from another soccer team, they can get to the point of beating each other up and even killing each other just in the name of their soccer team. You know, the hooligan thing. Likewise, in the positive, people can do incredibly positive things with the congregated energy of people who have a elevated shared wish or intention. So what is the harmonic circle? Is this is one of the things we learn in relationships yoga. We study how communication and relationships happens in three areas of our life: internal, interpersonal, and in groups. Okay. So one of the things we learn in relationships yoga is how this plays out energetically. So we want to use the energy of a group in order to enhance each participant's conquest of their own personal evolution towards better relationships with oneself, with others. Why? Because at the end of the day, we humans are relational beings. We're social animals. And what most defines the quality of our life is really the quality of our relationships. Personally, I've traveled in many continents and experienced many different types of cultures and societies. And what I found surprising is that the quality of people's happiness really did not depend so much on external factors or possessions or whatnot. It depended mainly on the quality of the bond, the social atmosphere, environment they were living in, together with their own internal ontological vision of life, the purpose, and so on. So what we're trying to do in relationships yoga, we're trying to to tap into this natural power that we have as human social beings to the advantage of each of our personal evolution. And so the first thing we do when we meet is the tracing of the circle, as I said. Sorry, is the activation of the circle by, for example, listening to music together. And then we do what's called tracing. The tracing is that every person in the group gives a moment of personal attention, undivided attention to each of the other members of the group. And this creates this kind of, you see, if everyone's attention goes to one person for just even a moment, and this happens to every person in the group, you see how this weaves, this energy weaves a connection, threads of presence and attention among all participants. Now, we are a number here tonight, and so we can't do a long tracing, but we can do something very simple, because this changes the nature of the energy between us. Because right now, many of us don't know each other. And there's a little bit this kind of atmosphere, what's going on? Who are these people? Who am I? How am I in relation to them? Because I don't know. And not knowing creates natural distance, disconnection, a bit of separation. So now, what I would like to invite you to do is one of the relationships yoga practices is to pay attention to each other one at a time. So I'm going to invite each one of you to just say your name, where are you, and what brought you here today. As simple as that. Like, I'm Anaconda, papaya. I have an animal and a plant's name. I'm in Italy, as you know. And what brought me here today is that in my 40 years of research and experience in the fields of yoga, meditation, hypnosis, and whatnot, living in community for many years, I realized that what really determines the quality of our happiness is relationships. So I'm happy to share this experience, this vision, because I've noticed that it is transmissible. There's some basic concepts that can be practiced and can change people's lives. So I'm motivated to share this for this reason. Is my little contribution to cleaning up the atmosphere on the planet a little bit. So now that I finished saying my thing, I'm going to do like this. I'm going to say, "Oh." As crazy as that sounds, it is crazy indeed. I am crazy personally. And by the way, while we're at it, please don't believe anything I'm saying, because everything I say, that's another rule in the game, is a lie. So you may wonder, why am I listening to someone who's only saying lies? Well, I won't I won't answer that for you. You're going to have to answer that for yourself. At the end, you're going to decide if my lies, which are my truths, but not necessarily yours, are in some way functional for you, useful, helpful, or fun, and if you want to hear more of them. So after each one of you speaks, please, you can do ho, which means I spoke. And to make sure that everyone else was actually attentive, everyone else immediately after can say ho together. That way there is it's a two-way thing, okay? And yeah, I'll add other things along the way. So please simply say your name. Where are you in this moment? And what brought you here? What are you doing here? Of course, people who have been studying with me for time, they will say so. And people who are completely new, you will say, who's the person who put you into trouble by telling you to come to this meeting tonight? Okay. And now I get to choose who's next. And now it becomes more and more difficult. Pay attention, because if you're really paying attention to everybody in this game, as we go on, it becomes more and more difficult to understand who spoke already and who hasn't. So you really have to pay attention. Okay, I'm going to ask Jessica to speak because she's on the top left of my screen. So let's go quick so we have time then to understand more about the relationships.
So, hello everyone. My name is Jessica. I'm at the east coast of Germany at the moment.
Mm.
And what brought me here? Well, a lot of curiosity about the harmonic circle, my wish to help expand the harmonic circle and relationships yoga, and just my passion for life. That's why I'm here. Ho!
Oh,
Oh, ho,
Oh,
ho,
oh,
oh, oh.
And I pass it on to Faure. Maybe that's right. I don't know.
Paure.
uh,
Uh, yeah,
okay,
unmute yourself. Thank you.
there we go. There we go. Hi, everyone. I am Fore. I live in Stellenbosch, and it's my first time here, so thank you for inviting me. And yeah, I haven't attended any yoga classes. This is now a relationship yoga class, which is also virtual, which is quite new and exciting. Um, so yeah, I'm here to learn, and Silly recommended this channel to me, so I'm also grateful for her. And that is my story. Oh,
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 oh. I would like to pass on to Jasmine.
Jasmine, Yasmin.
thank you for. Hi, everyone.
Oh.
Uh, I'm Yasmin, and I am now currently in Portugal, in the south of Portugal. And I joined the Harmonic Circle. A friend of mine from university, a childhood friend, introduced me to the Harmonic Circle almost 4 years ago. And uh, I know a few faces here, and I'm happy to see new faces. And I would like to pass it on to Celine. Oh,
Ho,
Oh,
oh,
oh.
oh.
wow. I think of all harmonic circles in history, this is the most variegated countries wise. I don't know. I was trying to count how many different countries, nationalities, and places. It's very, very distributed. Interesting. So we were talking about the relationships yoga. So the first of all, how do you feel? And if I would have asked you how you felt before we did the tracing, before we started paying attention to everyone, everyone paying attention to everyone. So now everyone is a little bit more connected. There's kind of a thread, there's a feeling, there's a recognition that at the end of the day, we're all, in the same boat together. We're all human. We all share our fears, our interests, and whatever. We may differ in many ways, but fundamentally, we're all the same. We like connection when these connections can be uh, somehow nurturing for us. And when connections are happen in the right way, in a harmonious way, that's why we call it a harmonic circle. When connection happens without judgment, in a sense of acceptance of each other the way we are, then that is where love takes place. There's an esoteric definition of love in some esoteric environment is that love is acceptance with no judgment. So there's no interference in the flow of energy that can happen between us. And it doesn't matter that we know each other personally so deeply. It's really something that can happen at from a heart to heart level, regardless of all the other circumstances of our life. So I hope that you feel better, therefore, now, after we've connected to each other. I hope that you can feel the difference because this is what relationships yoga is about, is becoming very conscious, very aware of our relationship with ourselves first. We will get into this in a moment. But immediately after, how does this relationship with ourselves, because at the end we're always actually in relationship with ourselves, even though we have the appearance that we're interacting with others, but even our perception of others depends a lot on our perception of ourselves. So if we have a good fundamental feelings with ourselves, if we can befriend our humanity and our divinity, if we can see all the different parts of us working together in the same direction, then the tendency is naturally to be able also to welcome others in the same way, to appreciate others, to highlight their beauty instead of being afraid of others, as often happens. And then when a person has a good relationship with themselves and then can have a positive relationship with others, and when people like this get together in a group, something magical happens. What happens that is magical is that instead of creating an energy that is the simple arithmetic sum of the number of people, let's say 10 people together, work together with a shared direction. Well, this, mathematically speaking, if 10 people work together, they have 10 units, so to say, of resources, of energy that they can put together. So 10 people means 10 units of resources. But there's something special that happens when people work together for a same shared goal, and their relationship among everyone, among each and everyone, the relationship is clean, is pure, is devoid of judgment, is devoid of separation. Let's see if we have a slide like that. I don't remember right now the slides. Okay. Well, if this might represent it, not fully, but when people in a group, in a circle, have a harmonious relationship among each other and everyone with everyone else, maybe this represents it, with everyone in the group has a clean, fluid relationship with everyone else, then the energy here of this egregore grows, but not arithmetically, it grows exponentially. That means 10 people working together for the same goal, and whom among and between each other they have a harmonious relationship, an uplifting one. Doesn't mean there's no conflict, there's no tension, because as Gene Houston, famous anthropologist, student of Margaret Mead, said, when there's no conflict, there's no community. By the way, for those who knew her, who met her, she passed away. She transitioned, or she left her body, or say it however you want, 4 days ago. And she was visiting Damanaher, which is a community that exists since 50 years. And I was translating her those days in Italian. And upon leaving, she was saying bye to everybody as she was entering the car. And then she came back out and she said, oh, by the way, always remember, when there's no conflict, there's no community. So it is not the friction between people in by itself that is dangerous for connection or even for love. It is the way we manage, or rather, the way we don't manage friction, that creates separation. The friction is kind of a byproduct of closeness because it is natural, even in the animal kingdom. So, anyway, when a number of people gather and they work together towards the same aim, then there's another magical law that applies, which is called the law of synchronicity. I'm sure you all heard the word synchronicity, which was coined by Carl Gustav Jung, the psychologist. And he wrote the preface to the book I Ching, the Chinese divination book. And he called these meaningful coincidences that happen synchronicity. When two events that have no logical relationship are concomitant in some way, we call that a synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence. Now, the fact is, in life, you, yes, you, I'm talking about you. You are a coincidence. What does that mean? In most occasions, your parents' meeting was not determined by anything but synchronicity. And you are the result of the meeting of your parents, which happened, even if it was programmed because in your culture, the people are put together by the parents, it doesn't matter. The fact that it was the two of them was coincidental somehow because of where people are born and whatnot. So the fact is, synchronicity governs our life much more than what we can normally remember. And there's this principle about synchronicity that goes like this. It says that synchronicity is a flow, is an energy that traverses forms, that is all that is, in proportion to their interconnectedness with each other. In other words, the more we are connected, the more synchronicity we are able to recall, to tap into, to gather, to attract. And this is what we experience in the harmonic circle. And this is why um, people who have this experience, who practice relationship yoga in their life, they have such an acceleration of events that are conducive to whatever their goal is in life. Because that's the cool thing. Relationships yoga does not end in the area of, oh, let's have a happy club where we socialize and we have a good time. That's not what it is about, really. It's about fostering the power that is naturally harnessed in the moment you clean up your internal dialogue and your relationship with yourself. That's what's called yoga, union of mind, body, and heart. And then when you also do the same in relationship with others, starting with people who are close to you, your family, and then considering the whole of humanity, your family, because that's really the way it is. So it is a very powerful way to harness energy and dovetail it, address it, aim it at whatever your personal higher goals are. It may be at work, it may be in whatever. I prefer to think in the direction of your mission, of the purpose of your life, the purpose of your soul, when that your essence, that part of you that is inhabiting your body, has chosen this adventure that we call human life. So this is the power of the egregore, and this is how we create it. Now, let's see here. We said that this is the first lesson of relationships yoga. So I already went through a few things: activation, how we do activation, the sound, everything. Every detail has a purpose and is explained in time. But my aim today is to allow everyone who's here for the first time to get a sense of what is this about. And then they can make an informed decision if they want to invest their time into learning more about this and to continue practicing this. Now, there's one thing before we continue, I do want to say right away. You've heard of the word harmonic circle many times by now tonight. The fact is that harmonic circle is the ongoing practice of relationships yoga. So even the course of relationship yoga itself is already a harmonic circle. This that you're experiencing now, being in connection with people from various parts of the world who all share the same aim, that is personal growth, personal accomplishment, personal evolution, and also, why not, achieving practical ends in one's life that can contribute to one's happiness, satisfaction, and joy. It can be in the work arena, it can be in relationships, it can be in attracting the right type of partner for yourself, or anything that is something that you want to experience in this lifetime. So this is already harmonic circle, and I will explain something about harmonic circle that is very important. Now, imagine we meet. Imagine you decide to continue this path. What does it look like? It means meeting once a week, actually same day, Thursday at 7 p.m. in Italy and whatever other time it is for you, for about an hour and a half, an hour 45 sometimes. And we open up like we did before. We listen to something together. We have a little meditation, and then we do a quick tracing. And then we study some topics and some simple practices that are explained. Why are they there? What is their purpose? How do they work? And what is the effect that they're supposed to produce in your life? All the information we share in the harmonic circle and in the relationships yoga is not stuff you have to believe. That's why I say everything I say is a lie. It means playfully, don't believe things. I'm not a guru. I'm not sharing some kind of mystical enlightened knowledge. No, everything I'm sharing comes from my personal experience in my research. That's why it may work or may not work for you. But I'm not interested personally, and therefore I don't share theories, philosophies, ideas. I'm interested because I'm lazy fundamentally. So I only like things that work. And therefore, I share with you things that have worked for me in my life. And I've started early in this lifetime to recap things from other lifetimes, if you believe in reincarnation. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. You don't have to. But I started very early in this lifetime researching, experimenting, studying, practicing in several different paths and going pretty deep in some aspects. And those things that I found that were most effective, those are the things I share in the harmonic circle and in relationships yoga. So one of the concepts is that the harmonic circle or the relationships yoga class is not at 7, from 7 to 8:30 or 8:44, or rather, the class is. But relationship yoga really starts in your life the moment this class ends and lasts throughout the whole week in your life. And it ends at the beginning of next week's lesson. That is, the real course is not being here physically, listening, participating in this social game. It is really taking home some of the ingredients, some of the elements we'll be sharing, and doing your best to practice them in your life. Now, why is the circle, the group, so powerful? One of the ways this happens is that normally we are left alone in our practice, and it is very, very difficult to have a steady, consistent practice. This is what everyone experiences. I have personally had a very consistent practice for 10 years, day in, day out, 365 days a year, every single day. But maybe if I had high fever, I had minimum 5 hours of meditation practices every single day for 10 years. But that's not because of me. I'm the laziest person in the world. The only reason I was able to do something like that is because I lived in an ashram and everyone was doing the same thing. So it was difficult not to do it. I had chosen then to enter a monastic path in the yoga tradition, and that's what I did. So everybody did it. So in the beginning, it was a little difficult. Then it became easy, became normal, and that was nothing special. So my experience since I've left the life of a monk and I've entered secular life is that most people I meet, and I was teaching yoga to or whatever, had a hard time to implement. So in the harmonic circle and in relationship yoga, we have a platform that is now Sutra, or we used to use Telegram, which is a platform where people stay in touch daily on the app, and they share their practices, because the foundation of relationship yoga is not just coming here once a week, but is the very important thing of having a date, an appointment with the most important person in your life once a day, at least 5 times a week. And that person is you. So we find that the first relationship you have to build, invest in, and start really relishing, because it becomes a lot of pleasure, actually, and fun, is to spend some quality time with yourself alone for at least 20 minutes a day, possibly first thing in the morning. This is the base of relationships yoga, because in that intimate moment with yourself, before you pay attention to everything else happening, before you look at all the messages on your phone, before you go out in the world and get somewhat distracted and go into autopilot mode, where your reacting parts or the mechanical parts of our being just take over, we want to first focus on ourselves. And this happens through a simple 10-minute reading that we share in the group, and 10-minute, we call it presence exercise. It's a mindfulness meditation. It's just a meditation based on being present for 10 minutes, doing basically nothing but being present and learning to observe what happens in us, outside, and that. So this practice happens at home in everyone's life for just at least 20 minutes a day, at least 5 days a week. And then once you finish the practice, you share one sentence from the book you read. Everyone reads the same chapter the same week, which is something that keeps feeding and nurturing the egregore, by the way. And so everyone can share in the group one sentence from their reading in the morning, and that creates threads of connection. And it also helps consistency, because maybe I forget that day, but then I receive 20 messages with 20 cool synchronistic sentences that remind me, oh yeah, that's right. And we call this practice sadhana. Sadhana means daily practice from the Vedic tradition of yoga. So this is the morning. And then in the evening, we close the day by writing a sentence that begins with, today, while observing myself, I discovered that. And I just share whatever I've become aware of that day that I wasn't so aware of before, or as aware of before, in any aspect of my being, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever. So this is the whole of relationship yoga in a nutshell, in terms of what is the structure, the practice. Obviously, the content changes, and there's a buildup of knowledge, information. And there's a book we read and we share together. It's a book that doesn't exist. You can't buy it. It doesn't exist out there in the world. It's a special book we use that is a very condensed information about self-knowledge, self-observation, self-discovery, leading to self-mastery. So this is the wrap-up of the practice. What I intend to do now is give you a little bit of a philosophical breakdown of what we do, why we do it, how we do. I already explained what we do. Now I'm going to explain more why we do it and why it works and why it's so powerful. After that, I would shut up and let everyone else here, each one of you who is new, if you have a question, you can choose who to ask the question to among those who you've seen, or maybe you remember who's already been doing it or not. But anyway, let's leave space for Q&A. And also let's see, what time is it? It is. I would like to hear also some other people maybe explaining things. Let's see if we can make that happen now. I'm gonna show a slide, and I would like to ask somebody to explain this slide for me. How about Jessica? Would you like to explain this slide please? Uh-oh, I shared it in the wrong way. Sorry. Okay. That way we change voice. It might be a little less boring.
So then I'm giving my best as I'm
She
a,
was
a
she was
student.
unprepared for this. Let me disclaimer. Jessica had no idea that I was going to ask her to explain this. So it could have been ego. It could have been you. Just because I know some of us love to be surprised to have to go public. So I think Jessica can handle this greatly. I mean, most of you, everybody practically. Okay.
Okay. So, well, Anaconda already shared a lot, but basically, what is the fundamental elements that within the harmonic circle on a continuous basis, but especially in relationships yoga, we have a look at is three different ways of being in relationship based on the so-called three universal laws, or called hermetic laws. For some of you have heard maybe of the hermetic laws of the Kybalion, which book is basically explaining those laws. And we start with relationship yoga at the intrapersonal level, meaning we already talked about the most important person in your life, which is yourself. So the intrapersonal communication at the end of the day is within ourselves. And this all happens in resonance with the universal law of mentalism. You might have heard or read in a calendar or in a very intellectual, nice post or spiritual post, thought creates. So, what the Relationships Yoga Lab is teaching us that whatever we think is fundamental to whatever we experience. And we will start exactly there. And then we move on to the interpersonal communication, which is the fundament of the relationships we have with others. And that's it. We are interpersonally connected with others. And this all happens in the law of, or in resonance with the law of vibration. You heard like attracts like, whether we want it sometimes or not, whether we want to see it or not, it just happens. And so we also go there and have a deep dive into this area. And the third, well, we touched upon it when we started. It's the activation, it's the centering, the pointing the focus towards the center. That's all about group dynamics. So it's the collective, which operates in resonance with the universal law of correspondence. As above, so below, as within, so without. So these are basically the three areas or levels, you can say, that we explore within the Relationships Yoga Lab. Anything I forgot?
Wonderful. Now, I have a question for you. Now, Jessica, do these you mentioned the concept of levels. Are these three things happening like one and then the other and then the other, or what?
No, I mean, of course they are all connected. Now the one is not operating and then the next and then the next, and we can separate these things. They're all happening together all the time. Nonetheless, for me, and I can only speak for myself, as you said, we share what we learned for ourselves from our experience. For me, mentally conceptualizing these things as one law at a time helps to get my head around the concept. But nonetheless, I'm aware in practice that all operates simultaneously.
Yes.
So it's not one or the other.
Perfect. I use the example of a tripod. A tripod or a pyramid, these three dimensions, they actually happen simultaneously and are simultaneously practiced within the study. And they're happening right now. We are having a group process. There is interpersonal relationship, but actually, what is really happening is how you are experiencing this, which is based on your own mindset. And so we use these three levels, which happen simultaneously, but as Jessica said, we pay attention to one at a time to really understand their dynamics in a very practical way. We tap into all kinds of fields of knowledge, neurolinguistic programming, shamanism, the Vedas, yoga, mysticism, different world traditions, spiritual traditions, and as well as the fourth way of Gurdjieff as well. So this is really cool. I like it how it's playing out. So I'm wondering if the next slide someone else can try to explain. Let's see what happens. So, okay, who would like to explain this slide here? This concept that from thought to destiny and backwards. So, anyone inspired here to want to share? This is also, as I'm talking to the new ones now. As you can see, this is also a playground for people who have been studying these things already to kind of practice also sharing, because it's an experience as well to speak out in front of a group of people. You don't know everybody, and maybe one is insecure or not, whatever. So this is also a playground to work on our internal communication so that we can choose if we want to also speak out. So because I'm telepathic, I'll tell you a secret, I'm pretty telepathic. I know there's someone who's there's on the brink about to say, I'll do it. So let's see who that person is. But maybe now that I said it, they won't do it anymore. So, who would like to explain Yogananda's poem? Should I ask someone? What do you think, Paulina? Should I ask someone? Just anyone?
Well, it's pretty clear. So a thought, whatever dominant thoughts you have, will determine what type of actions you take, and then whatever actions you on a constant base perform creates a habit, and then our habits all form our character, which leads to our destiny and what we create in our lives. So everything starts with a thought, and the thought leads to our life destiny.
Okay, that's perfect. And now this slide explains why we focus on this after having read the three areas: thought creates, similar response, similar, as above so below. We just shared how we study the three areas, and this one obviously is about the first area, that is how thought creates. But what's particularly interesting for us of this poem by Yogananda is described in the following slide. Please, Paulina, you can finish if you want.
So in order
I don't even know if you ever saw these slides.
No, I mean, I think I saw the first one, the previous one, but I don't remember this one. So of course, in order for us to change the outcome, which is what we call our life experience, what we need to do is change our character, or some people call it personality, by changing our habits, our day-to-day daily actions, and everything. All our actions are predetermined by our thoughts. So everything starts with the thought that we well, I don't believe we create the thoughts. I feel like we perceive them. So whatever frequency we are
Energize
on,
them.
yeah.
Whichever thoughts we energize. So the point, you said it rightly, the point of this is that we can, if this is true, this, by the way, we sell it as a Yogananda poem. Actually, comes from the Vedas. And the point being that it's interesting because if our destiny is based on our character, which is based on our habits, which is based on our actions, which are based on our thoughts, to back engineer whatever situation we are in our life, the first thing we must start addressing, learning to observe and to change, are our thoughts. So that's why we start from thoughts. Is that right? Does anybody want to add something? What are you thinking, Amanda? Do you agree?
Definitely.
Oh,
It's
this is
only
fun.
because I experience, because I have a personality type that has a lot of negative emotions, and through self-observation, I was able to observe the nature of my thoughts, and now I can stop myself whenever I want. So I have the power over my thoughts instead of my thoughts directing what I am. So that's it for me.
That's right. Does anyone else want to share some personal experience around this concept?
Just, I guess, just to play on words, I would always say your perception of anything, which is your thought. If you can change your perception on things, you can change all of those things.
Yeah, exactly. That's why there's a whole lesson of the 8 lessons, which is all about the gestalt of perception. Do you remember the one where we change the images and we learn how to change perspective and perception? It's literally a technique based on knowledge of how the brain works. Super cool. Let's see how these slides continue. What time is it? Okay, we're soon going to leave time for question and answer. Let me see if I can go through the whatever else. Okay, I'm going to go through this quickly. It's a little. So we in life, we all have some place we want to reach, which is point B. Define whatever your point B is. There's a starting point. There's the present situation, and there's the desired situation. Okay, the present state and desired state, and the point being that I'm also learning about these slides as we go, because I did see them, but I didn't remember this. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. What does that mean? That we all want to go somewhere nice, but then what's our experience? When I normally in this stage of the relationships yoga class, I explain the story by Gurdjieff, where Gurdjieff asked all these people who went to a conference of his, "Why are you here? What's your objective?" And everybody started saying all kind of very elevated objectives that they had in their life. They wanted to learn to love. They wanted to become enlightened. They wanted to end the war. They wanted this. They wanted that. But then only one, and Gurdjieff said, all these objectives are for a human are completely useless. There's only one objective that is worth pursuing for a human being, and that one young guy in the room had mentioned. And so Gurdjieff says, only that young man there has an objective that, from my point of view, said Gurdjieff, is worth pursuing for a human being. So Branko, what do you think that objective could have been?
Mastery of the self.
Oh my God, you know it all already. Okay, can you continue the presentation, please? You're right, Branko. That's perfectly it. So that's the thing. Gurdjieff said only self-mastery is worth pursuing. But why? And what's the relationship with this sentence here that says the road to hell is paved with good intentions? Maybe Branko, if you want to share with anybody else. Why did Gurdjieff say the only objective? Now think of it. I went fast today because we don't have much time, but you have an objective in your life, also in being here. What will determine if your objective will remain a good intention? And it's going to be yet another time that you won't be pursuing that. Or if maybe this will be the occasion where you actually pursue your objective. Why is that Gurdjieff's points of view? Yes, Jessica.
Because we need to learn how to drive the car. And if we
Yes,
don't
because
know,
self-mastery is learning to drive.
yeah,
Right?
drive this vehicle. The car is basically the the symbol or the icon for myself, for this human being called Jessica. And if I don't know how to drive this human being, I end up somewhere, but definitely not where I want to be.
Yeah. So I'm going to run you now a little quickly. So please bear with me. I'm going to go a little fast. So those of you who are bored by philosophy, you can kind of just put yourself on hold. But actually, what you're going to hear now is the map that's been unchanged for 40 years of the harmonic circle. The harmonic circle follows this exact itinerary to go from wherever you are now to self-mastery, where self-mastery means that there's a connection between your higher purpose and your higher purposes, because it does not necessarily have to be one, but whatever is really your higher ambition in life, what we would like to make of this life. If you knew you were going to die tomorrow, and we are all going to die tomorrow, but tomorrow may not be tomorrow, but the day after, or in 100 years. But the only thing that we're sure here is that we're all going to end this game by leaving this place. So no one will come out of this human game alive, in other words. So even though we have a sense of perception that everyone else will die, but we don't, that's one of the secrets of the human mind, is that we all think secretly that everyone else will die, but not us. This is the way our ego works. So we kind of procrastinate really trying to reach our higher ambitions, getting distracted with all kinds of stuff. So relationship yoga and the relationship with yourself also means coming home to the reality that we are here in this dreamlike reality. This is like a dream, and we only when you wake up can you realize that a dream was a dream. Likewise, we will really understand this lifetime when it will be over. And at that point, there's things that will remain, and there will things that will have completely evaporated and have no more sense. And that which will remain is how much have you fulfilled your higher purpose, which certainly is not having a nice coffee in the bar. Probably there's something more important for our choosing to come have this experience. So the purpose of relationship yoga is to really have us understand who we are, what we want, really, not what others want for us, but what do we want? What did we come here to accomplish in this lifetime? And how close or far am I from it? And within the relationships yoga course, there's at some point, there's a lesson where we give people a tool to measure mathematically your level of awakening, your level of mastery, in other words. It can be measured mathematically by using certain tools that we share at some point. So this is to say that this itinerary that I'm going to describe now is the map of what the whole harmonic circle is about. Let's look at it quickly. So the point is that we all have higher goals and a deeper purpose. And the only way to reach these and not have them remain only good intentions is to develop self-mastery. Why? Because if we master ourselves, our car, we can decide which destination to drive it to. Because if we don't know how to drive, we can think everything we want, but we won't be able to go to our destination. So self-mastery is the first necessary step to reach whatever a higher goal is. And to have self-mastery, there's only one way. To master a car, to drive a car, you need to know that car. So for self-mastery, we need self-knowledge. But because we don't have a written manual about us, how do we gain self-knowledge? Well, only self-observation can give us self-knowledge. But there's a problem here, is that most people think self-observation is analysis, evaluation. And when they think of themselves, they think, oh, I did this good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. But this analysis and evaluating mode, this judgmental mode, is actually what blocks us from really observing ourselves. And we become delusional, and we cannot see ourselves through other people's eyes because we are educated to try to pretend to be something which we are actually not. So we are constantly kind of putting on a show, a persona, a mask, and trying to be accepted through parameters and criteria which are not that of our real experience. So the only way for us to really be able to learn self-observation is to learn a practice that we call recording. And recording is just neutral, just like a video recorder or a tape recorder. And this practice of self-observation in the modality of recording requires that we practice something called divided attention. And remember, I was describing before that the relationships yoga is practiced by dedicating 20 minutes to yourself in the morning, 10 minutes reading, studying material, and 10 minutes practicing presence exercise. That presence exercise, which is a simple mindfulness exercise, is the quintessence of any form of meditation, really. And what it does, it produces divided attention. In other words, it allows us to see ourselves from the outside as we are normally not used to or able to. This practice of divided attention, sustained, becomes non-identification. You know that saying that says we are not humans who have a soul, but we are spirit souls who are having a human experience. So non-identification allows us to actually live while being in this world, but not of this world, consciously. That is always, in other words, having something called self-remembrance. So instead of identifying with our lesser bodies, that is our mind, our thoughts, our feelings, or whatever, we identify more and more with our essence and our soul. And these are words now. These are appear to be theories, but this is actually what the relationships yoga course allows you to experience in your life. If you have any question about what we shared tonight, or any doubt or anything, you can ask. And I'm sure those who have been practicing this relationships yoga and harmonic circle will be happy to share coming from their personal experience, whatever answer there may be to some curiosity or question or anything you may have. What are you wondering? Mandy, go for it.
How big are the circles generally?
I would say an average. We try to keep circles with minimum. When we start new circles, we try to start with at least 16 people, because then our experience is, because it's weekly, sometimes in average, there's always a few people who can't show up and they catch up on video. Okay. So that means there's at least 12 people present in average. That's why when we do 16, but sometimes when we start, there may be about 20 people. If there's too many people, we can break them up into two groups. But now we have a circle in Italian. This is the English International one. We're starting one in Spanish with South America. And we're looking into Russian soon. And also other languages. But in general, it's between 15 and 20 people.
And do you participate in any of these circles personally, or just in the one in Italy?
No, so far I participate in all of them. I'm actually facilitating, teaching all of them, but there are some of my elder students who are now assisting, and we're moving towards the fact that there will be more and more shared teaching in the relationships yoga, for sure. And in time, we hope, harmonic circles.
Thank you.
Where are you? You have any questions?
Oh, no, I don't have any questions. It's for me, like I said, it's a privilege being here. I've been going through quite a a boisterous time in my life, and I think to gain a bit more control and calmness and self mastery, that'll serve me well. I need
So
to.
maybe a question for you could be to ask any of these people who have been doing harmonic circle, is it true that if I do relationships yoga, I will gain a little more control on my emotions, whatever? That would be a good question, because I could like sell anything and not,
Mhm.
I even started saying everything I say is a lie. So,
Mhm.
you shouldn't trust me, but you can ask the other people, they're sincere.
Yeah, I will choose now. I think any, I don't want to generalize, but I think any type of inner work and a bit of connecting to people on a bit of a deeper level will result in calmness. But maybe Eagle can share a bit, if that is.
Ego.
Well, I think from my experience, for the main thing is the part where, while observing yourself, you really do observe yourself without judging yourself, without rating yourself. This is key, in my opinion, for the observation to be qualitative, for it to lead to a good result. Otherwise, you're going to fall into difficult emotions, and life will push you, because we're used to competitiveness, we're used to judgment, and if you do, if you are aware of the ultimate target of observing yourself and remaining non-judgmental, just watching yourself with kindness and compassion, I think that's key in getting results very quickly and getting to non-identification, etc.
That
So
is challenging for me because I tend to be hard on myself oftentimes. So I need to have a bit of.
It seems that you're in good company, because when we do this in harmonic circle, it means that the people also resonate with what you're saying about yourself. So how many people here tend to be hard on themselves?
I used to.
So, Nikki.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
There are a lot of people on this group that have done harmonic circles, and then they've been part of this for like a year and a half. And my question is, do you do the X number of weeks, and then do you guys meet often to reconnect in your same groups, or how have you all been connected for a year and a half, or some of you longer? Like, how do you keep connected if you have a set amount of time of the classes as such?
Yeah, I can answer, because I've been with Harmonic Circle for over 2 years. It started as a kind of relationship yoga course, just like we are starting now. And then once you complete the course, you can choose to either go and study yourself on your own, or you can join the Harmonic Circle, which is just going to continue the way it is. Once a week on Thursday, we connect. We have our meeting, and that's how it goes. So for as long as we have the group, it just continues once a week. We do have a break in the summer for like a month and a half or 2 months.
And in the winter vacations. I would just add this, Nikki. Relationships yoga is the fundamentals, okay, the basics. In the harmonic circle, because everyone knows the basic practices, I go deep into certain specific tools, extra things. We do other work that is more deep, but requires a person to have the basics of the practice. And examples of that is we study things such as the Enneagram of character fixation. We study, we do, it's not that we study, we practice things based on some knowledge that can help deepen and expand one's understanding of one's life purpose. We have a practice that we call the purpose of your life, how to find out the purpose of your life. And then we have another practice that's called the passion test. which is using a methodology to actually manifest things that you want to be happening in your life at any given time. Learning the science of manifestation. How does it work? What to do, what not to do, how to do it. And the fact of doing it in a group makes everything more powerful because we learn through each other. Because one thing is to study a thing on your own, but when there's peer groups, then there's breakup groups, and people sometimes meet in smaller groups and they work with each other. You can choose buddies. I mean, there's many different types of things we do. And that's more like ongoing.
Okay.
Whereas these lessons, relationships yoga, there are only 8 lessons, and you learn the 8 basics. How do I do this? What do I do?
Yeah. So if you want to continue, there's a very simple way of joining. So I'm gonna post a link into the chat here in this space, which makes it very easy for you. If you have not registered already, you can register for the course. And be aware that at the moment we still have a discount code happening, which is HCA Yoga. So you can type in this in the checkout and you receive a discount, which at the end of the day is just a little bonus, little gift from us for these unprecedented times in which we are. So we want to share this as best as possible with everyone. No matter the financial means, basically.
But how much is the discount?
It's 50%, 50.
Okay.
Yeah, 50. So that's from here going to the space
When we start.
directly. Otherwise, you can always go to our website where we obviously have relationships yoga as a course that you find under study. And from there, you can always join directly. You will end up at the registration page. You choose your pricing tag, your price level. We have 2 levels, which is the standard price and the supporter price. And we also have a reduced rate for those who cannot financially offer or be able to join based on the 2 tiers that we offer generally. And the supporter tier will always support, as it says, the ones with the reduced rates or who applies for the reduced rate. So you select your tier and then you join the lab. And then we are excited to have you. At the moment, it's like this. Next week, the official course Relationships Yoga Lab for 8 weeks starts. And we have a so-called course space called Sutra. So whenever you go through the registration through our website, you will end up signing and creating an account on Sutra. And this is where everything in the lab will happen. You will receive all informations about the Zoom links. You will receive the recordings. You will have the chats. The book in which we share our sadhana as well. You will have discussion forums for some prompts that we might share. So everything will happen there. And we have beautiful souls supporting you as community support within our course space. So if there are any questions organizationally, technically, please feel free. Otherwise, that's the way how you join us.